Hello, all. As promised, I wanted to give a quick review of this week's task list, week 5. We have only this week and next week to go, and I congratulate you on incredible work and um, being patient as we all became familiar with the Google Classroom platform and some of its glitches. And on that note, I want to especially congratulate you on the presentations for the strategy instruction. I think all of you did a really, really great job of demonstrating your own understanding and of being able to explain the strategy in a way that your colleagues will be able to make use of the information as well. So I really think that you did a great job and you should be proud of yourselves. Having said that, and knowing that it was quite cumbersome to actually upload the presentations, I will be emailing you comments directly. I won't be posting them the way that I have in other assignments because since we posted them in 3 different areas, I didn't want you to have to go chase them down. So very quickly, for this week's task list, you will be able to find it in the Google Classroom. As always, you have 2 sessions. One of them is on differentiated instruction and the other one is in phonics. So if you click on this task list, you'll see that the one on differentiated instruction is actually the one that's going to be more taxing this week. The other one is very self-explanatory on phonics, and there's only one highlight that you'd have to share in a Padlet. The one on differentiating instruction, however, I want you to try your hand at writing a literature review. And in order to get you more familiar, for those of you that haven't written a literature review or that have done so without proper guidance, I've provided I think the best literature review guide I've ever found. Like I wish I would have had this in grad school myself. So if you go through the document, you'll see that I've provided links to articles and one video. And then most importantly, and this is where I'm going to start, I've provided the sample literature review. And as I said, it literally walks you through each of the steps of writing a literature review. So when you go to this link, you'll see that it literally begins, a student began a short literature review, and then goes through all of the steps that one would take to write a coherent literature review, one that actually makes sense. So the first thing that I would do is that I would go through this document and then go into the articles. And as this person did here, once you've read the article, I would definitely immediately create my APA style reference for that article, because later on you'll just be using the document that you start creating to copy and paste into your actual lit review. So the sooner that you get those references done, the better. So I would create my reference, and then as you see here, a paragraph that delineates what the study was, and the main idea of the study and the argument and its most conclusive findings. So per article that you'd be using, you'd create the APA reference and the 1 or 2 paragraph summary and of the article itself. Then, as you see here, this person decided you have to decide upon the order of the paragraphs. So depending on how you'll actually be going through and deciding what's most important, you'd order your paragraphs possibly chronologically, as in the most recent study, or you'd order them depending on how you're going to order the actual lit review. So if you decide that you're going to first define differentiated instruction, you would then use that article that's defining what it is first. And then you might want to talk about research-based findings in differentiated instruction and the different studies of differentiated instruction and what we found. And then lastly, you discuss how differentiated instruction can effectively be used in the classroom. Now, one of the most valuable things that I find about this document is that it walks you through deciding on the order of the paragraphs, as you see here, and then most importantly, it walks you through adding introductory and concluding sentences, paragraph hooks, and short transition paragraphs to help the flow of ideas. And that is invaluable. I think most students have the most difficult time not in creating a summary of what they've read or in really understanding the research. I think you do a good job of that as graduate students. But I think that where papers tend to go awry is that students don't really understand how to create those paragraph hooks or the introductory sentence, and therefore the lit review doesn't have a good flow. It's very truncated. So if you'll see here, and I'll read this one quickly, it says, regarding the mentally ill, it appears that people respond to mentally ill with feelings of fear and rejection. So this paragraph is obviously going to be about that. Now then, there's a concluding sentence. Thus, a common respond that to the mentally ill are rejection and fear of violence. And then again, this is what we call paragraph hook. While based upon research, the common response to a mentally ill person is to fear violence, diagnosed mentally ill patients commit violence at the same rate as diagnosed people. So as you can see, this is a really good example of somebody that's doing a paragraph hook within the literature review. So as I said, I would really go through this entire document. I think it does a very good job of guiding you through how to write a literature review. Then I would go ahead and go into the links and decide which of these you will use. I've also provided 2 links for some possible outside resources. Unfortunately, these links, you'll see differentiated instruction and the REACH articles, will only take you to the abstract. They will not take you to the actual article. I am having trouble accessing these articles on the CUNY library system because of password issues. I will continue to try to do that, but if you have any way of accessing it, then these are articles that I would suggest are good outside resources. If you go into Google Scholar and you type in differentiated instruction in secondary settings, you'll see that you do get some very reputable resources. Like this first one, for example, is an article in teaching exceptional children, and it is one of the better journals in exceptionality. So it's something that I would highly recommend. This first one that you would encounter if you put in this differentiating instruction in secondary settings as your search words in Google Classroom. In Google Scholar. So I've given you some suggestions here on what you should be doing, and I've also provided a rubric that outlines the expectations that I have for the actual paper. So again, if you go into this first session for this week, I hope that I've provided enough information for you to make this somewhat seamless. The lit review should be 2 to 3 pages in length, single spaced, and make sure that it discusses the following. So you define differentiation, what the research posits regarding differentiation, how we differentiate in reading and writing, and why should teachers utilize differentiation in the classroom. So I hope that you learn a lot from the process of doing the literature review. But if you have any questions whatsoever, again, you know that I am only an email away, and you can certainly ask me anything you'd like. If you would like to send me an early draft of your literature review and you want me to provide feedback, please do so. Share it with me as a Google document, and I am happy to review the first draft and give you any suggestions. So that is the first session for this week, and as you'll see, the second session is on phonics, and again, it's very self-explanatory. I want you to just pick one article that deals with grammar and grammar instruction in the classroom. And then I've provided a presentation. It's short that you can view here as well. So it's a short PowerPoint on differentiating and scaffolding for formal writing. And then I've asked you to just share one highlight from your reading of the article that you choose, and that it also includes something that you might have gleaned from the PowerPoint for this week. And as always, I've provided a link for you to share that in the Padlet. And I would like you to please make sure that you comment on one of your classmates' posts. And that, my friends, is the end of this week's review. Again, if you have any questions about the literature review process or any other part of this week's or any week's task list, make sure that you email me. Okay, take care.